All right, so a very good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. Right, I'm glad that you are able to spare some time this afternoon to attend this webinar. And I hope that at the end of this webinar itself, you have gathered certain useful informations and you enjoy this session itself, right? And of course, my name is Kevin. I'm the CTO with ACP Group. So this afternoon, I will be collaborating together with Shengyou, right, who is from JetBrains. So there are basically two parts to this afternoon's webinar. So on the first part itself, I will be sharing essentially the very intricate relationships between having a good code or a good product, with good coding itself, and how does that impact business, or how does business can actually benefit from having good code practices, right, per se, that leads to good product, good quality product, right? So that is the first part that I will be covering. And then after that itself, I will hand over to Shengyou, right, whereby he will be doing a live demonstration on the usage of PhpStorm. And then after that, we will end off the session with some Q&As. All right, so without further ado, right, let's start. All right, so how does good code affect one's business? Now, businesses, in the last year itself, in 2020, they were projected to spend about 426 billion on software alone, right? That is how much of the market size, right? And in many corners of the news, right, coding has been called the business literacy of the future. It's like, reading, writing. Now the ability to communicate with devices and the cloud has gone beyond a luxury, has gone beyond something that I think is good to have, but now it has gone from a luxury to a essential. Is a need to have now. All right, and why coding is important, right? And whether you call them coder, developer, engineer, or even individuals that has the ability to create, maintain, or improve software, they are essential to business success today. All right, and should we invest in better code? Right. So when a developer comes to ask you for extra time, right, for good purposes, not for bug fixes and whatnot, but to look at how he can better the quality of the code. All right. Should you listen even though it disrupts, right, your ideal timeline? Right. So I leave it, to you guys to think about that. Right. And of course, why good code matters for the end product. Now, from a business owner perspective, from any business itself, right, having a good code, right, for your end product means a quality product, and it means for the business, the bottom line. And there is also certain factors, right? For example, accessibility. Now, having good developers, right, who knows how to write good code can affect, right, how many users discover whether is it your app or your site, right, or whether they can even find it at all. Now, why do I say that? Right, I believe that most of us would have past experiences that comes from using an app, or we visited a website that was too slow or had too many bugs. All right, and most likely all of us, we have this type of experience previously. Or there could be another scenario is that we may not encounter a website or app, that were too slow or has too many bugs. And the reason why is because most likely your preferred search engine or the app store have they have already efficiently filtered out these products of lower quality. Right? Then what does that mean to a business? Right? What does it mean? It means that, the effort that we have put in to develop a product, to finally roll out and go live, nobody's aware of it because it is so bad that it can't even be found. Right? That's bad for business. And nowadays, okay, it is not just enough to catch user attention. Right? You have to also retain their attention, give them what they want, keep them entertained and happy. All right. And of course, you want to have certain, or I would say that, useful functionality that will capture their attention. All right. And you want to keep on adding to that function. And there is, of course, the other side itself is that, when you have more features than ever before, right, countless of things can go wrong. Yeah, and even a tiny glitch can have a huge impact. And that's very bad for business. So the only way is to keep things running smoothly. It's through having impeccable code, okay, that is created by developer who has thought ahead, right? And I think anyone who works in the software field, okay, will agree with this point that the development process is heavily dependent on the code quality, right? And you will be glad to work with someone who have that ability to think ahead, the ability to write first-class code, right? It's going to be part of a huge success, right? And whether is it immediate or future, the benefit is there for us to see. And just as having faulty code, right? What will happen? You can lead to failure. Whether is it immediate or in the long run. All right. And of course, it may seem that a developer job is done once the product hits the market, but that's not the case, because from a business owner perspective itself, we want to keep on leveraging on the product by rolling out new features, right? To look at the market trend, to look at what the gaps in the market itself, and we want to fill those gaps. So we want to keep on rolling out new features and having a good structured code that is prepared for future extensions or new features. It has a dramatic effect on the time needed to implement those features. I'm talking about good code versus bad code. The amount of time that you spend adding new features to this good code itself, the development time I'm referring to, versus you have a very bad piece of code and you want to add in new feature to it. I believe that everybody has an idea of how frustrating and how much of time that we have to spend trying to actually add a new feature to a piece of code that is of poor quality. Yeah. And you talk about data and security nowadays. Wow, that is something that everybody has to be aware of. All right. And having having fewer tech issues. Of course, the whole idea is if you have less tech issues to handle, means that you have fewer security mishaps to happen, right? And then you may think that something like that can't happen, right? Because it is not a problem until it is a problem, right? If you're thinking like that. But I would like to remind that in the case of IT security, you can never be careful. Yeah, you cannot sit on your laurels to think that, oh, I've actually rolled out, it goes live already. I've actually done my due diligence. I have my VA, I have my PT done. So everything is fine. Okay, when there's new patches to roll out, I don't think I need to do that roll out, right? But right? That is something that you have to be continuously, right, pay attention to. I mean, take for example, like, like a few years ago, Facebook has a data breach, right? As even earlier on, there is the Yahoo breach that was in 2017. Yeah, and even as recent as 2020 itself, SolarWinds. I believe that everybody is aware of this SolarWinds. They were hacked. All right, and US were their treasury, and even for their defense, department itself, they were actually hit. Right, so you can never be careful about security. Okay, and another thing to take note of will be is data. I mean, a relatively common issues are actually corrupted data, and how this corrupted data arises. This stems from errors within the code. All right, and in a worst case scenario, right, it can lead to a complete loss of the data itself. And when you have loss of data, what kind of impressions does it impact your business? I mean, let's put it this way: when you lose your customer data itself, how does the customer view you? Would you have that trust? Will they come back to you anymore? Right? I believe you can actually derive the answers yourself. And reusability. Now, this is reusability is something I'm going to reuse over and over again. Okay. Now, we all know that code can be reused. The question is how much and how often. All right, and that depends on how carefully it is written and how well thought out it is. Right? All right, and by reusing code, what does it mean? It means that it will lead to faster development time, right? Because you are eliminating the need to write new code from scratch. And it helps incredibly with the maintenance of existing codes, right? You're not looking at 10,000 lines as opposed to 5,000 lines, So that serves the benefits. And of course, from a business perspective itself, I'm able to roll out new feature in a relatively shorter timeline, means that I can hit out the market early and I would have the first mover advantage. Agreed? Now, I want to also make this statement simply make sense, right? Because development is about reading code just as much as writing it, right? You need to understand what does code meaning, the purpose, what is its life cycle, and you can only do that if the code is structured properly, all right, and is well thought out and is written in a correct manner, right? And if the code makes sense, right, it is not just to the person writing it, but to any developer who sees it, right? It is very, very beneficial. It is incredibly beneficial to any business owner. Let me tell you why. Number one, flexibility. Okay, because as a business owner, you can then therefore choose to work with different developer or different company at your own discretion at any point, anytime. Yes. Reusability. Okay, again, I use this word because when you implement new features, right, you are not just adding in new code. You are looking at reusing and modifying existing ones. And lastly, for new developer that just join a project. Now, as a business owner, as a project manager myself, I usually have the headache if I would actually ask someone to join on board. Then the question that runs through my mind will be is that how much of time they need to be on board, that they will get to the point that they know what they need to do and they are able to contribute to the project, right? So by having a very structured, well thought out code, quality code itself, okay, the developers should be able to look at the code, understand why is it there, what purpose does it serve, and I don't need to actually arrange somebody to just sit beside the person and to run through the code with them. Make sense? So from a business perspective itself, I would have all these advantage at hand. All right, so that is why I say it's making sense by having a good code that is good for your business. Now, the next part, I will just go through something that I believe that most of us, we are familiar with, the evolutions of, programming. So at this point, I would like to actually run a poll, right, to find out that what are the popular, software programming language that you guys use. So maybe I'll give you guys just a bit of time, to do that. All right. Hey. Keep on coming, guys. Let's see. Right, which are the top programming language that you use or you know? Okay, almost there, almost there. There are about 20 more guys that have not selected yet, or okay. Very close, very close. Okay, we have about another minute. I give another more 30 seconds. Right, let's see what else. Come on, guys. Okay, the advantage of having a webinar itself is that you guys are sitting back there. Nobody knows who you choose what, so you're free to choose. Even though today we are talking about PHP, but maybe you do not like PHP, that's fine. Yeah, so you don't have to be shy. Please choose. Okay, I think we are almost there already, and we will stop the poll. Okay, so I believe that most of you have actually seen, right, the results and the top programming languages that used, right, at this point, right, based on the poll itself is actually JavaScript. And in second place, we have PHP. But I mean, I guess that, these two software actually pretty run hands in hand when you are talking about front end, development, as with PHP itself, right, most of the time. So, all right, thank you for spending your time to do the poll. Now let's carry on. Now, just to put you guys on the same page with me. So for this evolutions of programming, my focus is actually on the high level language, right? I'm not going to talk about the way beginning, the one and zeros, assembly language and so on. No, I'm talking about high level language. All right. So this is a little bit of the short programming history. I believe that you guys find this image pretty familiar. All right, so let me just walk through a bit of short history. So, back in 1945, Fortran is the first, high-level language that was, widely used. Then come into about 1972, that is where C came out, and you have SQL that is in 1978. So then, as we pass on to the next decade, this is where in 1980, C++, right, that first came out, and C++ is still relatively heavily used right today, and I guess that they are coming out with a 2020 version, and then following decade itself, this is where someone, a lot of software that you're familiar with, Visual Basic 1991, Ruby 1993, JavaScript 1995, together with PHP. So both of them came out in 1995, and follow on to the next decade. So in 2001, we have C#, and 2009, we have Go, right? That's from Google. And moving along to the next decade itself, we have Colin, right? That's from JetBrains from 2011, Hack from Facebook 2014, together with Swift, Apple itself. So as you can see in the relatively 60 plus years itself, right? We have actually experienced this number of software that has came out, and based on our personal preference, based on our work requirement. I mean, right, we study this language in school, we go out to work, and depending on the first job that we get, the company is actually using the standard stack, right, technology stack itself. I mean, there's no way you can tell a boss, I'm more familiar with this language, right? So that is probably how we all get started, in the sense where, this is where we get started, and therefore that was the first language. So some of you may have actually got to pick up that software, along the way. Yeah, that's what happens. And of course, with regards to today's topic, we are looking at how, why still use PHP beyond 2021, in terms of business. Now, of course, in VTech, there was actually research done. So this was, if you look at the image itself, is actually this year, 28 Jan. So as of 2021 Jan itself, right? So 79%, right, of the all website, right, are actually still using PHP, right? So to give a bit of a comparison itself, it is almost 8 out of 10 websites that you visit on the internet are actually using PHP in some way. So, right, some of you prior to this itself, guys may think that, PHP is going down, right? But then looking at this number itself, if 79% of the web actually are still using PHP, so where is PHP heading towards? Yeah. And I also like to share that some of the top corporations, right, that are actually using PHP. Facebook, right? We are all familiar with Facebook, right? Facebook was initially built, its application code, right, with PHP programming, as with Wikipedia, Slack, and WordPress that we are familiar with. So, right, looking at the statistics, looking at the top corporations, right, I mean, PHP to me is here to stay, right, because of the demand for it. And I mean, you look at the some of the largest tech leaders in this economy itself, they are actually still using it. All right. So the questions I also want to ask you guys will be is, what do you think about PHP? Do you think that there is a future for this programming language, or is it gone? So I'd like to actually run another poll. I'm actually interested to find out what are your views with regards to PHP. So again, I'll give another minute, please. Right, go ahead. Okay. Come on. And I feel, like I said, that's the advantage of technology sitting behind, keyboard warriors, right? We are all keyboard warriors. So let's carry on. Right, choose what you want. I mean, come in from your own personal choice. I mean, if you think that really there's no future for PHP, by all means, please go ahead, right? Right, doesn't mean that you go by peer pressure, or doesn't mean that you go back to school, go back to your university, and your friends gonna make fun of you. I think that's not the case, right? It depends on how and what you think, Okay, so a minute is up. I think we should stop the poll now. All right, so as you can see in terms of the poll itself, so we have actually an overwhelming 82% that thinks PHP has a future. Likewise for us, right? Of course, right, definitely I have to say that, yes. All right, so I would just like to use certain statistics just to back up, what we say. All right, but of course, I also would like to say that, right, while there is actually a lot of discussion about, the future of PHP and due to the recent trend itself, well, I dare to say that 79% is what we have the current statistics as it is now. But this has actually fallen from way before, right? It is clear. But based on the statistics itself, it is still very clear that PHP does still has future, because of the 79% is proven that this is still the most used programming language for website. And I also like to be objective in a sense to say that PHP has been around for around now, like early on I mentioned, since 1995. And of course, there's old tech that is going on because it's been from 1995, so there's actually a lot of old stuff, down there that means that it may not be so, fantastic. It has its cons, in the sense itself. So you may want to actually look at maybe using a certain framework, that does a lot of dirty work for you, or force you to actually write a cleaner code. So I'm actually sharing an example here. So this is the a benchmark from Kinstack, right, about the latest version of PHP, and based on the tables itself, right, based on the chart itself, you can see that it's actually faster than ever before. So this is the recent PHP benchmark, right, in terms of the latest 7.x as compared to PHP 5.6. So this benchmark is set. I'm sharing two framework, right? One is PHP, the other one is Laravel itself. So you can see that their numbers are fantastic. Yeah. So, right. Anyway, so I would like to actually end off my part here with this statement. Okay, good code makes money and saves time. Bad code does the opposite, right? And I also would like to add is the frustration that comes with it, right? There's no exception. Okay, now companies which have developers, right, and for company in the situation where they have developers that they couldn't fire. Okay, let me just share this with you, right? Now, because no one could understand the code except for these developers. Okay, and the reason is not because that the code was written that advanced, but it was so poorly written that nobody understands except for them. Right? Does that make sense? No. So, right, in many ways, writing a strong code base is an investment. Okay, from a business owner point of view. Right? If my team is able to spend one extra week writing automated tests, right, it will save us weeks of debugging. Right, each time we have to implement new features going forward. Right, point number one. Point number two, if we are able to write code in a more complex, modular way, right, by adding in, right, or modifying modules later on, right, it can save weeks of work. Okay, last point. And if we take the time to ensure that the code reflects any business real-world use cases, I dare to say that you will never expect to hit an unexpected major roadblock. All right, take these points, think about it. Whether you are a business owner or whether you are a developer. All right, so with that, I end my portion. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the content that I've shared. I'm going to hand over back to Charmaine.
Okay,
right, Charmaine?
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank
Okay, so
you.
now that Kevin has covered the content side, so I'll hand over the time to Shengyou from JetBrains to give a live demonstration of PhpStorm on how you can generate good code and also the updating. So I'll hand over the time.
Thank you, Charmaine, and thank you, Kevin, for bringing us so many valuable insight about the PHP. So hello, everyone. I'm Shengyou. I'm a developer advocate in JetBrains. I'm a PHP developer for 10 years. So if you are a PHP developer like me, then you are gonna love PhpStorm. It has tons of features that could help you boost your productivity. Today, I will spend about 15 minutes to demonstrating as many tips as I can to let you know the most important feature in PhpStorm. So here's the topics that I will cover in my live demo. It's including project template, the PHP and composer setting, editing, testing, refactoring, inspection, and how we upgrade the PHP code from the previous version to the latest version. Also, I will demonstrate the most latest feature code with me with my colleague Aaron. So let's switch to my desktop. And here you can see that is what PhpStorm looks like. And we can create different kinds of project by pressing the new project button. As you can see that there are tons of different project templates that you could create, for example, PHP empathy project, composer project, or other CMS project for the backend development. Also, you can choose, for example, Angular, React, Vue, or even Bootstrap or HTML5 boilerplate for front-end development. So it could help you to build a basic folder structure, also some scaffolding for you to have a quick started. Okay, so for today's demo, I will use an empty project. Let's say that the project location is on my desktop and the project is a demo project. After we create our new project, you can see that this is the UI when you're editing your project. In the left-hand side, it will list all the project files in the project tool window. And in the right-hand side, you can editing your code in the code editor. So in modern PHP development, we manage our project using Composer. So PhpStorm will synchronize all the settings from Composer. So the first thing we need to do is to set up our PHP interpreter, also a Composer. So open up the preference, go to the PHP section, and here's the interpreter setting. So we can, in PhpStorm, we can support the local interpreter. For example, I installed the MAMP on my Mac. You can also install WAMP or WAMP on Windows or Linux, and it will bring your local interpreter for you. So I can set up for PhpStorm. Also, you can find that we can separate our PHP executable, also the debugger separately, because it will improve the performance for PhpStorm. So in the general usage, you can use the PHP executable to run your PHP code. And when you run the testing or you want to debug your code, PhpStorm will automatically switch to the debug mode to connect to Xdebug for you. Okay, also we can connect to Docker, Vagrant, or any SSH server to have a remote interpreter for you. I will demonstrating this part later. So after we set up our PHP interpreter, then we go to the composer setting. Also, we can have the local composer, or we can use the remote composer from any virtual machine or any remote server. And PhpStorm even can help you to download the composer.far file from the internet. So for this time, I will choose the composer, local composer for now. I will also demonstrate how to use remote composer later. Okay, so after we set up the PHP and the composer, then I will run the composer init command to convert the current project into a composer project. So I will press double shift to open up the search window and search for composer init command. I will hit the enter, and you can see that PhpStorm will trigger the composer command line tool to generate a basic composer.json file for you. By the way, when I press some shortcut on my PhpStorm, then you can see a green pop-up. For example, you can see here is a green tool window on the top to let you know that which shortcut I pressed, and also it will show the shortcut in Windows, so you can know how to do the same thing on your in your local laptop. So let's say I will name my composer project, for example, is PhpStorm demo, and I will add some description. And also I can set up the license and enter my full name and also my email account. Okay. So as we can see that we set up the PhpStorm in PHP 7.3. So we will also set up this setting in our composer.json file. So under the required section, we can say that we want to use PHP for 7.3. Also, we can add some dependency. For example, I want to add Carbon. It's a famous datetime library. It could help us to handle the datetime. And basically, we will add some testing framework, for example, PHP unit for our project. So let's say we want to add the required dev section, and we can use the PHP unit. And I will use the 9.5 version. Okay. So after we set up all the composer file, then we can use the update or install to click the button. Then PhpStorm will run the command in the background to help you to download all the dependency and put it in the vendor folder. So you can see that in the left-hand side, the vendor folder has my dependency. Also, it will generate the composer log for you. Okay. So for the project, we need some other folder. For example, I need a folder called src for the source, and also we need the test for testing code. So after we add those folders, then we can add, for example, auto load. We will use PSR4. Our namespace is app, and the folder name is src. And we also want to add autoload dev. We can use PSR4, and the namespace is app test, and the folder is test. So let's hit the update button again. So PhpStorm will synchronize the composer setting again. And you can see that in the left-hand side, the src folder became blue. That means this folder is the source folder, and the test folder will become green. It means it will store all the test case under the test folder. Okay, so let's write some code. I will add a new PHP file called index.php under the root. So in the code editor, you can type any HTML file or PHP code in the editor, and PhpStorm will help you to generate the necessary code for you. For example, I will use tips called live template. It just you can use some symbol, for example, exclamation mark and head tip tab, and it will generate a HTML file boilerplate for you. And you can jump between the placeholder to fill up your code. And also you can see that PhpStorm know the correct word, so it will help you to fix the typo. Oh, it's also wrong. Okay, so for the page title, maybe we can say this hello world. And for paragraph, this is a sample page using PHP. Okay. And in PhpStorm 2021.1, we have a built-in preview rendering engine for you. So you can click the top right icon to preview the HTML file right inside your editor. So it's really convenient for you to, for example, I want to create a list that contains 3 items. So just hit the tab. It will generate the code template and also render the result for you. And we can also have some Lorem Ipsum to generate the fake text for you. So it's really convenient. So you don't need to save your file, switch to the browser and refresh the page and see the result. You can do all the things right inside your editor. And this is not only for the HTML file, but also for PHP code. So let's delete all the HTML and then we will, let's say I need a PHP info for my project. So after I finish the code, you can see that PhpStorm will render the page immediately in the right-hand side. So I think that this is very useful. So you can see that PhpStorm could help you to auto-complete the composer.json. You know how many fields or how many, what is the page name and the version name. And also it can render the HTML and the PHP code right inside your code editor. And then let's create a new classes under the SRC folder. We will create a user class, for example. And because we already set up the composer.json and PhpStorm synchronize it, so it understands the namespace, the naming convention, the directory, and it also will help you to generate the class template for you. So let's hit OK. And you will see that PhpStorm will bring you a scaffold for the class. So when we writing PHP code, you must feel that you spend too much time typing for some boilerplate code. For example, we need to have a constructor for the class, and we need to initialize the field for the class property. We also need to add getter, setter for the class property. So let me demonstrate how to generate all the necessary code for you. Just simply type some keyword for the function name. For example, underline com. It will hint that there is a constructor. Do you want to generate? Of course, let's press the tab. So it will generate the code block for you. Also, we can use some type hint for example, we have ID, we have first name, and also last name. And we install Carbon for datetime, so we can type hint it here. And let's say this is a birthday. So after you declare all the property parameter for the constructor, then we can generate the PHP doc using PhpStorm. So that you don't need to type all the PHP doc code for you from your side. And then we need to initialize all the fields for the properties. So let's say we just use Option Enter, then we can initialize the property. And you can choose which property you want to initialize, and then press OK. You will see that PhpStorm will generate the code and also the property and also the PHP doc with type for you. So that's really helpful. And also we can use the same technique, just press Option Enter to generate the getter for each property. So please, no more typing for the getter or setter. But sometimes you will find that, for example, I want have a custom getter for user class. For example, I want a custom set of a getter called for name. So how could we do that? We could type PUBF, that means public function, and then we press tab. It will bring you a code block and put the placeholder for the cursor. So we can say we want getter called get for name, and our return type is string, and we will return our first name combined with the last name. Okay. So as you can see that we could generate all the necessary code for you. But how about we want to test our code, because we are a TDD lover, right? So PhpStorm could help you to generate the test-driven development workflow for you. So I placed my cursor on my custom getter and use the same technique. You can use the option enter, and you can find there's an option called create new PHP test. So again, because our PhpStorm understand compose.json, so it already help you to install the PHP unit under my project, and it will put your test case under the test folder, and you know the namespace. It also follow the PHP unit naming naming convention, so it will name the class user test. So let's say okay. So in the test case, we know that we have 3 steps: arrange, act, and assert. So we can say that we need the carbon object to, for example, to generate datetime, to have a datetime object. And then we need to new user class. I will say the user ID is 1, and the first name is Shengyou, the last name is Fan, and the birthday is the object that we just created. Okay. So as you can see, when I typing, you have some tempo to generate the code. You don't need to type user equal new user. You could just type new user and .var to postfix the syntax on to become the right PHP code. So it will bring you a new idea to complete your PHP code. And then we will set up an expected is Shengyou Fan. And again, we need to use our user class to actually run the get for name getter, and we will store into an actual variable. So in the last step, we could assert the expected is equal to actual. As you can see, when I typing, I don't need to type all the function name. I just simply type the most important keyword, and PhpStorm will smart enough to help you to choose the right one. So let me put my cursor on the function name, and then you can use the option enter shortcut again to run the PHP test. Also, you can trigger that in the gutter. That's the same way. So you can use either way for you. And let's say that our test has passed. So my getter is work properly. So after you write your code, you will find that the code might not be perfect. So we will spend some time to refactoring our code. So how could we do that? For example, this variable should not be named for carbon, because it should be named for birthday, right? So we can use the shortcut Command T to rename this variable, and you can see that PhpStorm is smart enough. You know, it should be named for birthday. So let's switch to birthday. And also, I want to make my code shorter, so we can, for example, inline the carbon declaration into my class declaration. So just hit the same shortcut Command T to, for example, inline this variable. So it will make your code shorter. Also, we can inline for expected, also for the actual. Okay, so you can see after I refactoring the code, it only 2 lines. And if you want to make it more readable, so maybe we could separate the declaration into multiple lines. So it looks much better for now, right? Okay, so I just demonstrate how to write the testing, how to use refactoring tool, and then I want to tell you how to upgrade your PHP version from 7.3 to, for example, 8.0, because we know that PHP improves in every new version, and it brings many new syntax. So in PhpStorm, we have a powerful language parser inside the PhpStorm. So it could help you to detect the error, which syntax should be upgraded. So let's say that we want to upgrade our PHP from 7.3 to 8.0. So the first thing we need to do is to update the composer setting. So after we update the PHP setting, just use composer update. Then we need to go to the preference. We want to change the interpreter from 7.3 to 8.0. And this time I will use the Docker because I want to install the most recently version of the PHP. And I already run my Docker daemon in the background. So I just click plus to add a new Docker image. So this time I will use the image name called Composer Latest because it will contain the PHP 8.0, also the composer. So it's more convenient for us. So let's say I install the composer image, and also I want to update the composer setting. This time I will use the remote composer. So let's say we want to use this one. And after we set up, okay, so I think the PhpStorm already got the new PHP interpreter and also the composer. Then we could update our PHP code from 7.3 to 8.0. So we know that PHP 7.4 is bringing a new feature called type property. So you can see that PhpStorm hint that you can add the type property in your code. So just use the option enter again, and we can add int as the property type. And also we can hit the shortcut again to remove the redundant PHP doc because we already declare in our PHP code, so we don't need to we don't need the PHP doc again. So let's say we can update all the property using the refactoring code, and we can also remove all the PHP doc from here. And that's the new syntax from PHP 7.4. And for PHP 8.0, it has a new syntax called constructor property promotion. So PhpStorm also support that. So put your cursor on the property on the parameter, and you can convert the parameter into the promoted property. So you can see that it really makes our code shorter and clean. And you don't need to do anything. You just use the shortcut. Also, in PHP 8.0, we have a new feature called name argument. So when we new instance for a new user class, we can also add the argument for the property. So let's say that we will add name argument for the field. So you can see that PhpStorm can help you do all the thing. You don't need to type by yourself. Okay. So that's the tips for how to upgrade the PHP code. And I think the last thing I want to show you is the most recent feature in PhpStorm. It's called Code with Me. So it's a brand new pair programming tool for JetBrains IDE. So imagine that your colleagues are in different city or even different country, but you want to pair with them in a project. So in the past, you might need to open a meeting software and share your screen with your colleague, and then you both need to speak the code you want to type, and someone need to be the typewriter to complete the code. And it's not efficient, and so Code with Me could help you to do this in a better way. So in PhpStorm, let me start a new pair session by clicking the top menu. This is the Code with Me button on the top. Then you can enable access and get the invitation link for you. And you can see that it brings a permission setting for you. You can either choose a read only or add file for access and generate the invitation link for you. So I will open up the for access for my colleague Aaron. So the link has generated, and it will copy it to your clipboard. So let me paste secretly to my colleague Aaron. So after Aaron get the link, when he click the link, it will open up the browser, and the browser will trigger the computer to download the lightweight IDE immediately and connect to our pair session. So let's wait him for join. And during the meantime, I want to share one more tips for you. It's called code style. As we know that, okay, Aaron is coming. So let me accept. And after I accept the coming request, I can open up the Code with Me tool window on the right button side. Okay, so you can see that Aaron is joining, and we can also open the webcam to see each other, and you can use your microphone to talk each other, and also you can has text chat, and you can even send some emoji to each other. Okay, so Aaron is initialized his webcam. So after he initialized, then we can saw him in the Code with Me tool window. So in the meantime, that I will show you the code style. We know that if you write PHP code, PHP is a flexible language, so it's not hard to learn the syntax. But when you work in a large code base, we have to normalize and standardize your code style. So we have a community-based recommendation from PSR. So as we know that PSR1 and PSR2 is specific for the coding style, and also the PSR12 is special for the PHP 7 coding style. So in PhpStorm, that we have building support for PSR. So open up our preference. We can go to the code style under PHP. You can see that we can either choose PSR1 and PSR2 or PSR12 predefined rules to help you to reformat your code. So let me choose PSR12. And you can see that if my PHP code is a mess, for example, just like that, I have several space between the code, and then I just hit the shortcut Command Option L. You see that PhpStorm will help you reformat the PHP code to follow the PSR12. So it will help you to remove the unnecessary space, put the comment in the right place. So if you want to cooperate with your colleague, then I think the code style is really helpful for you. Okay, so we saw that Aaron is online, and he opened the webcam and say hi to everyone, and he can also send me some emoji to me to discuss our source code, and also we can saw that Aaron and I could share the same text editor in the same time. So here is the cursor from Aaron, so we can type synchronously in the same time. And we can talk to each other, and also I can follow the our guest to fully synchronized mode. That means when Aaron type or switch the editor tab, or even he open my tool window, for example, for the terminal or other tool window, I will synchronize with him to have a better understanding and the perspective with him. Okay, so I think that is a very powerful pair programming tool, especially for now, because I know there's a lot of remote worker, or also we most of the time we work from home, so it will help you to have a pair programming experience for you. So I think here is all I want to share with you today. So hope this thing, all the tips bring you a clear message that PhpStorm can help. If you have any question, you can ask in the QA, and we will answer it later. And if you want to contact me after this webinar, here is my QR code for Facebook. And also here is my email, so you can write me for your question. So I think that's it. So let me hand over to Xiaoming. Thank you.